The first rays of sunlight slowly crept through the tall windows of Kensington Palace as Prince William opened his eyes on what would become one of the most important days in British royal history. The morning air felt different somehow, filled with anticipation and nervous energy that seemed to dance through every room of the Grand Palace. William stretched in his bed and looked over at Kate, who was already awake, staring at the ceiling with a mixture of excitement and worry crossing her beautiful face. Kate had been awake for nearly an hour, her mind racing through all the details that needed to be perfect for the coronation ceremony. She thought about the children and how they would handle such a formal and lengthy event. Would Prince Louis sit still during the long ceremony? Would Princess Charlotte remember all her royal etiquette lessons? Would Prince George feel overwhelmed by the enormous responsibility that came with being present at his grandfather's crowning? The couple quietly slipped out of bed, trying not to wake the children who were sleeping in the adjoining rooms. William walked to his dressing room, where his ceremonial uniform hung waiting for him. The deep blue fabric with its golden decorations and shining medals looked magnificent in the morning light. He had worn similar uniforms before, but today felt completely different. Today his father would become king, and William himself would move one step closer to his own destiny as the future monarch of Britain. Kate stood before her mirror, carefully applying her makeup while thinking about the historic significance of the day. Her stunning dress hung nearby, a masterpiece of royal fashion that had been designed specifically for this coronation. The soft fabric caught the light beautifully, and she knew that millions of people around the world would be watching her every move. She wanted to look perfect not just for herself, but for William, for their children, and for the entire nation that would be celebrating their new king. Down the hallway, the three royal children were beginning to stir in their bedrooms. Prince George, now 10 years old, woke up with a serious expression on his face. Even at his young age, he understood that today was special and important. He knew that someday he would be king himself, and watching his grandfather become king would be his first real lesson in what that meant. He sat up in bed and looked at his own ceremonial outfit hanging in his wardrobe, feeling both excited and nervous about wearing it. Princess Charlotte bounced out of bed with typical 8-year-old energy, but she too sensed that today was different from other days. She had been practicing her curtsy for weeks, wanting to make sure she did everything perfectly when she met all the important people who would be at the ceremony. Her beautiful dress waited for her, and she could hardly contain her excitement about wearing something so elegant and special. 5-year-old Prince Louis was the last to wake up, rubbing his sleepy eyes and wondering why everyone in the palace seemed to be moving around with such purpose and urgency. He could hear voices in the hallway and sensed the excitement in the air. His miniature formal outfit looked almost too fancy to be real, with its tiny decorations and perfect tailoring that made him look like a young prince from a fairy tale. The family gathered in their private dining room for breakfast, a tradition they maintained even on the most important days. The table was set with their finest china, and the morning meal felt like a special celebration all by itself. William and Kate exchanged meaningful glances across the table, both thinking about how much their lives were about to change now that Charles would be king. Prince George ate his breakfast quietly, occasionally asking his parents questions about what would happen during the ceremony. Princess Charlotte chattered excitedly about seeing all the important people and the beautiful decorations in Westminster Abbey. Prince Louis focused mainly on his food, though he kept looking up at his family with curious eyes, sensing their excitement without fully understanding what was happening. Kate helped the children finish getting dressed, making sure every detail of their appearance was absolutely perfect. She straightened Prince George's collar, smoothed Princess Charlotte's hair, and tied Prince Louis's shoes with extra care. William watched his family with pride, knowing that they would represent the royal family beautifully at this historic event. As they prepared to leave Kensington Palace, the family stood together for a moment, holding hands and sharing a quiet prayer for the day ahead. The morning preparations were complete, and they were ready to make history. The royal carriage slowly rolled out of the palace gates as thousands of people lined the streets of London, creating a sea of red, white, and blue flags that waved energetically in the morning breeze. The sound of cheering voices filled the air, so loud that it seemed to make the very ground vibrate beneath the wheels of the elegant carriage. Prince William sat tall and straight, his military uniform gleaming in the sunlight that streamed through the carriage windows, while Kate looked absolutely radiant in her carefully chosen outfit that sparkled with each ray of light that touched the delicate fabric. Prince Louis pressed his small face against the cool glass window, his eyes growing wide with amazement as he saw more people than he had ever seen before in his entire young life. The crowd stretched as far as his eyes could see, with men, women, and children of all ages standing shoulder to shoulder along the entire route. Some people had been waiting since the early hours of the morning just to catch a glimpse of the royal family, and their excitement was clear on their faces as they waved their flags and shouted words of celebration and support. Kate pointed out familiar landmarks to the children as their carriage moved slowly through the historic streets of London. She showed them the beautiful buildings where important events in British history had taken place, and she explained how today would become part of that same important history. Her voice was calm and gentle, helping to keep the children relaxed despite the overwhelming crowds and noise surrounding them on all sides. Princess Charlotte sat very properly in her seat, just as her etiquette teachers had shown her, but her eyes danced with excitement as she looked out at all the people who had come to celebrate her grandfather becoming king. She waved her small gloved hand at the crowds, copying the graceful movements she had seen her mother make so many times before. The people in the crowd seemed especially delighted when they spotted the young princess, and their cheers grew even louder whenever she waved back at them. Prince George maintained his serious expression throughout the journey, already beginning to understand the weight of responsibility that came with being part of the royal family. He sat up straight and waved politely to the crowds, but his mind was focused on the ceremony that lay ahead. He had been studying about coronations in his history lessons, and he knew that he was about to witness something that only happened once in many decades. The young prince felt both honored and nervous to be part of such an important moment in British history. The crowds grew thicker and more enthusiastic as the royal carriage approached Westminster Abbey, where people from countries all around the world had gathered to witness this historic coronation ceremony. Flags from many different nations flew alongside the British flags, showing how the entire world was watching and celebrating this special day. The international visitors had traveled thousands of miles to be present for the crowning of Britain's new king, making the atmosphere even more exciting and meaningful. William and Kate exchanged meaningful glances across the carriage, both thinking about Princess Diana and how incredibly proud she would have been to see her grandchildren participating in such a momentous royal occasion. They could almost feel her presence with them, watching over the family as they made their way to the ancient abbey where kings and queens had been crowned for nearly 1,000 years. The memory of Diana brought both sadness and joy to their hearts, knowing that she lived on through her beloved grandchildren. As the carriage began to slow down near Westminster Abbey, the family could see the magnificent Gothic towers rising high into the sky, their ancient stones holding centuries of royal history within their walls. The moment they had all been preparing for was finally about to begin, and each member of the Wales family felt their hearts beating faster with anticipation as they approached the doors of destiny. The royal carriage came to a gentle stop in front of Westminster Abbey, and suddenly the air filled with the sound of clicking cameras and flashing lights that seemed to sparkle like stars in the daylight. Prince William stepped out first, his polished boots touching the ancient stones that had welcomed royal feet for hundreds of years before him. He turned back to help his family from the carriage, his strong hand reaching out to guide Kate as she gracefully emerged, her stunning dress flowing like water as it caught the morning breeze. Kate looked absolutely breathtaking as she stepped onto the red carpet that had been rolled out especially for this historic moment. Her dress shimmered in the sunlight, and every camera in the area captured the elegant way she moved, like a princess from a fairy tale come to life. She smiled warmly at the crowds of photographers and dignitaries who had gathered to witness this special arrival, her natural grace making everyone around her feel welcome and included in this momentous occasion. Princess Charlotte was the next to emerge from the carriage, and she did so with the perfect poise that her royal training had taught her. The 8-year-old princess stepped carefully onto the red carpet and immediately performed a beautiful curtsy to the waiting officials, her movements so graceful and practiced that even the most experienced royal watchers were impressed by her natural elegance. Her dress was absolutely perfect, and she looked like a young version of her mother as she smiled politely at everyone around her. Prince George walked confidently beside his father, his young shoulders held straight and proud as he took his first steps toward becoming the future King of England. Even at 10 years old, he carried himself with a dignity that showed he understood the importance of this day and his role in the royal family. His miniature formal outfit was identical to his father's in many ways, and seeing them walk side by side gave everyone a glimpse of what the monarchy would look like in the years to come. Prince Louis, despite being only 5 years old, behaved remarkably well as he stepped from the carriage and looked around at all the grand surroundings with eyes full of wonder and curiosity. His small formal suit made him look like a tiny gentleman, and his natural charm won the hearts of everyone who saw him. Though he was clearly amazed by everything happening around him, he stayed close to his parents and followed their lead perfectly. The family paused for a moment at the entrance to Westminster Abbey, allowing the photographers from around the world to capture this historic image that would be remembered for generations to come. The ancient doors of the abbey stood open behind them, waiting to welcome them into the sacred space where the coronation ceremony would take place. The contrast between the modern royal family and the 1,000-year-old building created a powerful image that spoke to both tradition and the future. Kate bent down to smooth Princess Charlotte's hair one final time, making sure every detail of her daughter's appearance was absolutely perfect for the cameras and for history. William placed his strong, reassuring hands on the shoulders of both his sons, giving them the confidence and support they needed to walk through those famous doors with pride and dignity. The family stood together for just a moment longer, taking in the magnitude of what was about to happen. They could hear the sounds of the ceremony preparations echoing from inside the abbey, where hundreds of important guests from around the world were waiting for the historic coronation to begin. Together, as one united family, they walked through the ancient doorway that would lead them into one of the most important moments in British royal history, ready to witness the crowning of their beloved King Charles. Westminster Abbey fell into a hushed silence as the Wales family walked down the long aisle toward their special seats in the front row, where they would have the perfect view of the historic coronation ceremony. The ancient building seemed to hold its breath as millions of people around the world watched through their television screens, witnessing this sacred moment that connected the present day to centuries of British royal tradition. The high stone walls and beautiful stained glass windows created an atmosphere that felt both magical and deeply spiritual. Prince William and Kate took their seats with quiet dignity, feeling the weight of history pressing down upon them from the vaulted ceiling high above. William's chest swelled with pride and emotion as he looked toward the altar where his father would soon be crowned King of England. Kate reached over and gently took her husband's hand, both of them understanding that this moment would change their family forever and bring them one step closer to their own destiny as future king and queen. Prince George sat perfectly straight between his parents, his young face serious and thoughtful as he watched the elaborate ceremony unfold before his eyes. The 10-year-old prince had studied about coronations in his history lessons, but seeing it happen in real life was completely different from reading about it in books. He watched carefully as the archbishop prepared the ancient crown that would soon rest upon his grandfather's head, understanding that someday a similar crown would be placed upon his own head in this very same place. Princess Charlotte sat like a perfect little lady throughout the entire lengthy ceremony, her hands folded properly in her lap just as her etiquette teachers had shown her. Her bright eyes took in every detail of the magnificent scene, from the golden ceremonial objects that sparkled in the light to the beautiful robes worn by the religious officials conducting the service. She occasionally leaned over to whisper quiet questions to her mother about what was happening, and Kate would bend down to give gentle explanations in her ear. Prince Louis, despite his young age of only 5 years, sat remarkably still and quiet during the long ceremony, though his eyes grew wide with amazement at all the golden treasures and elaborate decorations surrounding the altar area. When the ceremony became particularly long, Kate would quietly offer him a mint or adjust his position to help him stay comfortable, showing that even during the most formal royal occasions, she remained a caring and attentive mother above all else. The moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived as King Charles stepped forward to receive the crown that would make him the official monarch of Britain and the Commonwealth. The ancient words of the coronation oath echoed through the abbey as the new king made his solemn promises to serve his people with dedication and honor for the rest of his life. William felt tears gathering in his eyes as he watched his father accept this enormous responsibility with grace and dignity. When the golden crown was finally placed upon King Charles's head, a feeling of reverence and awe swept through the entire abbey like a gentle wave. The Wales family watched in respectful silence as their patriarch became their king, each of them feeling the profound significance of this moment in their own hearts. Even young Prince Louis seemed to understand that something very important and special was happening, and he sat perfectly still without making a sound. The ceremony continued with beautiful music and ancient prayers that had been part of coronation services for hundreds of years, connecting this modern-day celebration to all the kings and queens who had come before. Kate looked around at her children, feeling incredibly proud of how well they were handling such a formal and lengthy event, knowing that their good behavior was being noticed and appreciated by people watching all around the world. As the coronation ceremony reached its climax, the entire royal family stood together to sing the national anthem, their voices joining with hundreds of others in the abbey to create a powerful moment of unity and patriotism that would be remembered forever. During one of the most moving parts of the coronation ceremony, Princess Charlotte noticed that her youngest brother Prince Louis was beginning to feel overwhelmed by all the grandeur and formality surrounding them in the ancient abbey. Without being asked by her parents, the thoughtful 8-year-old gently reached over and took her little brother's small hand in hers, giving him the comfort and reassurance he needed to continue sitting quietly during the long service. Her natural kindness and caring nature shone through even in this most formal of settings, showing that royal training had not diminished her loving heart. Prince George stood perfectly straight and tall during the singing of the national anthem, his young voice joining with the hundreds of others echoing through the stone walls of Westminster Abbey. His posture and serious expression showed a maturity that went far beyond his 10 years, giving everyone who watched him a glimpse of the future king he would someday become. The cameras captured his focused attention on every detail of the ceremony, as if he was mentally recording everything to remember for the rest of his life. The television cameras caught several tender moments between the three royal siblings throughout the lengthy ceremony, moments that showed their genuine love and care for each other despite the formal setting. Princess Charlotte would occasionally lean over to whisper gentle explanations to Prince Louis about what was happening during the more complex parts of the service, helping him understand why everyone was being so quiet and respectful. Her patient teaching showed the same nurturing qualities that her mother Kate displayed so naturally. Kate beamed with motherly pride as she watched her 3 children handle this enormous royal occasion with such grace, dignity, and natural poise. She had worried for weeks about how they would manage such a long and formal ceremony, but seeing them support each other and behave so beautifully filled her heart with joy and relief. Every so often she would catch the eye of one of her children and give them an encouraging smile or a small nod of approval that let them know they were doing wonderfully. When Prince Louis began to grow tired during one particularly long section of the ceremony, Kate noticed immediately and quietly reached into her small purse to offer him a mint, a simple motherly gesture that showed how even in the most royal of settings, she never stopped being an attentive and caring parent. The little prince accepted the mint gratefully and settled back into his seat with renewed patience, comforted by his mother's thoughtful attention to his needs. Prince George's concentration during the ceremony was remarkable to observe, as he followed along carefully with the order of service, trying to understand every ancient tradition and ritual that he was witnessing. His dedication to learning and understanding everything about the coronation showed that he was already taking his future responsibilities seriously, even at his young age. The young prince occasionally asked his father quiet questions about specific parts of the ceremony, and William would bend down to give brief, whispered explanations. The three children exchanged meaningful glances during some of the most solemn moments of the coronation, their sibling connection allowing them to communicate without words even in this sacred and formal environment. These silent conversations between brothers and sister provided comfort and support that helped them all get through the long ceremony with patience and good behavior. Their natural bond as siblings remained strong even under the pressure of such an important public event. Princess Charlotte's perfect behavior throughout the entire ceremony impressed not only her parents, but also royal watchers and ceremony experts around the world who had wondered how such young children would handle such a lengthy and formal occasion. Her graceful posture, attentive listening, and helpful care for her younger brother showed that her royal education and her parents' guidance had prepared her well for moments like these. The children's remarkable composure and natural dignity during the coronation ceremony proved that William and Kate had done an excellent job preparing them for their roles as members of the royal family, teaching them to balance their natural childhood personalities with the formal behavior expected of young royals during important state occasions. After the magnificent coronation ceremony ended, the royal family made their way through the corridors of Buckingham Palace toward the famous balcony, where British royals had appeared for generations during the most important moments in the nation's history. The excitement in the palace was electric as staff members rushed to make final preparations for the traditional balcony appearance that thousands of people had been waiting hours to see. William and Kate walked hand in hand with their children, all of them feeling the anticipation building as they approached the tall French doors that would open onto the world's most famous balcony. The crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace had grown even larger during the hours of the coronation ceremony, with people packed shoulder to shoulder in every available space, stretching as far as the eye could see down the Mall and into St. James's Park. Families had brought picnic blankets and Union Jack flags, creating a sea of red, white, and blue that seemed to pulse with excitement and patriotic energy. Children sat on their parents' shoulders to get a better view, while elderly people in folding chairs had claimed the best spots hours earlier, all united in their desire to be part of this historic royal celebration. As the tall palace doors swung open and the royal family stepped onto the iconic balcony, a thunderous cheer erupted from the thousands of people gathered below, a sound so powerful and joyful that it seemed to shake the very foundations of the ancient palace. The roar of approval and celebration rolled across the crowd like a wave, growing louder and more enthusiastic as more people spotted their beloved royal family appearing above them. Cameras flashed like lightning from every direction as photographers captured this perfect moment of connection between the monarchy and the people. Prince Louis immediately came alive when he saw the enormous crowd spread out below the balcony, his 5-year-old energy bursting forth after sitting quietly through the long ceremony. He began waving enthusiastically with both of his small hands, his face lighting up with pure delight and wonder at seeing so many people gathered just to celebrate his grandfather becoming king. His natural charm and infectious joy brought smiles to faces throughout the crowd, and his enthusiastic waving made people cheer even louder with appreciation for the youngest royal prince. Princess Charlotte stepped gracefully beside her mother Kate, copying the elegant and practiced waves that she had watched her parents perform so many times during other royal occasions. The 8-year-old princess had clearly learned well from observing Kate's natural grace and poise, and she moved with a dignity that impressed everyone who watched her. Her beautiful dress caught the afternoon sunlight perfectly, and her confident smile showed that she was completely comfortable in her role as a young member of the royal family. Prince George maintained his serious and thoughtful composure as he stood beside his father, waving formally and properly to the crowd below, just as William had taught him during their private lessons about royal protocol. The 10-year-old prince understood that he was being watched not just as a child, but as the future King of England, and his mature behavior reflected the weight of that responsibility. His careful attention to proper royal etiquette showed that he was already learning to balance being a normal boy with being a future monarch. The entire family stood together as one united group on the famous balcony, representing not just the current royal family, but also the bright future of the British monarchy. William looked proud and confident as he waved to his future subjects, while Kate appeared radiant and elegant in her role as the future queen. The image of the 5 family members standing together against the backdrop of Buckingham Palace created a picture that would be remembered and treasured for generations to come. Kate's joy at the success of the day was evident in every smile and wave as she acknowledged the crowds below, her natural warmth and genuine happiness making her even more beautiful than usual. She occasionally bent down to speak quietly with Prince Louis, making sure he felt included and comfortable during this overwhelming but wonderful moment. Her ability to be both a gracious royal figure and a caring mother at the same time made her beloved by people watching from around the world. The excitement among the thousands gathered outside Buckingham Palace reached an incredible new level as the distant sound of approaching aircraft engines began to fill the air above London, growing louder and more powerful with each passing second. People in the crowd started pointing toward the sky and shading their eyes with their hands, trying to spot the first signs of the Royal Air Force planes that would soon appear in perfect formation to honor the newly crowned king. The anticipation was so thick you could almost touch it, as everyone knew they were about to witness something truly spectacular and unforgettable. Prince Louis's face absolutely transformed with pure delight and wonder when he spotted the first group of military aircraft approaching in the distance, their sleek shapes cutting through the clear blue sky like silver arrows. His eyes grew as wide as saucers and his mouth dropped open in amazement as he watched the planes grow larger and larger as they flew toward the palace. He began jumping up and down with excitement, tugging enthusiastically on Kate's elegant dress to make sure she was watching the incredible aerial display that was unfolding above their heads. The crowd below erupted into cheers and applause as wave after wave of Royal Air Force aircraft flew over Buckingham Palace in perfectly organized formations that demonstrated the skill and precision of Britain's military forces. Fighter jets, transport planes, and helicopters of different sizes and types participated in the tribute, each group flying at exactly the right altitude and speed to create a breathtaking display of power and respect for the new king. The sound of their engines created a symphony of strength that echoed off the buildings throughout central London. Princess Charlotte clapped her hands together with genuine excitement and joy as the famous Red Arrows aerobatic team appeared in their distinctive red aircraft, leaving trails of red, white, and blue-colored smoke across the London sky in honor of the British flag. The 8-year-old princess had heard stories about the Red Arrows, but had never seen them perform in person, and her delighted reaction showed just how magical and special this moment was for her. She pointed eagerly at the colorful smoke trails that painted beautiful patterns against the backdrop of the clear afternoon sky. Prince George watched the aerial display with intense fascination and interest, his young mind already understanding the military significance of this flyover tribute to his grandfather, the king. His father, William, had shared stories about his own military service and his love of aviation, and now George could see firsthand the impressive capabilities of the Royal Air Force. The 10-year-old prince stood at attention during parts of the display, showing his respect for the servicemen and women who were honoring his family with this spectacular demonstration. William took advantage of this special moment to point out different types of aircraft to his children, sharing his extensive military knowledge and his genuine passion for aviation with the next generation of royals. His experience as a pilot himself allowed him to explain to George, Charlotte, and Louis exactly what they were seeing and why each type of aircraft was important to Britain's defense forces. The pride in his voice was clear as he described the skill and dedication required to perform such a precise and complex aerial display. Kate captured the wonder-filled expressions on her children's faces as they watched the magnificent flyover, knowing instinctively that these would become treasured family memories that they would all cherish for the rest of their lives. She smiled as she watched Prince Louis continue to point excitedly at each new group of aircraft that appeared, his 5-year-old enthusiasm bringing joy to everyone around him. Her maternal instincts told her to remember every detail of this perfect moment when her family was united in amazement and happiness. The flyover display continued for several spectacular minutes, with group after group of military aircraft paying their respects to King Charles, while the royal family watched from their perfect vantage point on the palace balcony. Each formation brought new cheers from the crowd below and new expressions of wonder from the royal children above. The combination of military precision, patriotic celebration, and family joy created a moment that perfectly captured the spirit of this historic coronation day, showing how tradition and modernity could blend together in the most beautiful and meaningful way possible. Throughout the entire magical balcony appearance, the genuine love and deep connection between William, Kate, and their 3 wonderful children was absolutely unmistakable to everyone watching, both in the crowd below and among the millions of people viewing the historic event on television screens around the world. Every gesture, every smile, and every gentle touch between family members showed that despite their royal titles and formal responsibilities, they remained at heart a close-knit family who truly enjoyed spending time together and supporting each other through both ordinary moments and extraordinary occasions like this coronation celebration. Kate frequently bent down to speak quietly and lovingly with Prince Louis throughout the balcony appearance, making sure that her youngest child felt comfortable and included in every special moment of this overwhelming but wonderful experience. Her natural maternal instincts never disappeared, even when she was performing her duties as a senior member of the royal family in front of thousands of people. She would adjust his position when he seemed tired, offer gentle words of encouragement when he appeared overwhelmed, and share in his excitement when something particularly amazing happened during the celebration. William kept one strong and protective hand on Prince George's shoulder throughout much of the balcony appearance, already beginning the important process of preparing his eldest son for the enormous responsibilities that would someday rest upon his young shoulders as the future King of England. The father and son stood side by side, both waving to the crowd with similar gestures that showed how Prince George was already learning to follow his father's example in royal behavior and protocol. Their natural bond as father and son was clearly strengthened by their shared understanding of the unique path that lay ahead of them both. The 3 royal siblings consistently looked out for each other during the entire balcony experience, with Princess Charlotte helping Prince Louis wave properly when he became distracted, and Prince George making sure his younger brother could see over the balcony railing when the crowd below became particularly enthusiastic. Their sibling relationships remained strong and supportive, even under the pressure and excitement of such a public and important royal occasion, showing that William and Kate had successfully raised children who genuinely cared for each other's well-being and happiness. When Prince Louis began to grow tired from all the excitement and stimulation of the long day, Kate effortlessly and gracefully scooped him up in her arms so that he could continue to enjoy the celebration and see everything that was happening around him. Her natural grace made this practical parental action look elegant and royal, while still meeting her son's immediate needs with the tenderness and care that every 5-year-old requires. The image of the future queen holding her youngest child while waving to the crowd created one of the most touching and memorable moments of the entire day. The family's authentic and natural affection for each other created countless heartwarming moments that photographers were able to capture and that the public immediately fell in love with and cherished. These genuine interactions between parents and children, and between brothers and sister, showed that the royal family's public image was not just carefully managed appearances, but real reflections of the love and support that existed within their private family life. Their obvious happiness in each other's company made them even more beloved by people watching from around the world. William and Kate exchanged numerous private smiles and meaningful glances throughout the balcony appearance, both of them clearly delighted and relieved that they had successfully navigated one of the most important and challenging days in their entire royal lives. Their partnership as husband and wife, as well as their teamwork as parents, was evident in how smoothly they managed both their formal royal duties and their responsibilities to their 3 children during this complex and demanding public event. These candid and spontaneous moments of family love and connection provided some of the day's most memorable and emotionally touching images, proving that the British royal family successfully combined their historic traditions and formal responsibilities with genuine human warmth and authentic family relationships that people from all backgrounds could understand, appreciate, and admire. As the wonderful balcony appearance slowly came to its conclusion, and the royal family prepared to return inside the Grand Palace after this perfect day of celebration, they paused together for one final wave to the thousands of cheering people gathered below them in the courtyard and stretching far down the mall. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the entire scene, creating a magical atmosphere that seemed to bless this historic moment and make it even more special and memorable for everyone who was fortunate enough to witness it in person or through television broadcasts around the world. Prince Louis, now fully energized and delighted by all the excitement and attention of this amazing day, gave one last extra enthusiastic wave that seemed to use his entire small body to express his joy and appreciation for all the people who had come to celebrate his grandfather becoming king. His infectious happiness and natural charm drew laughter and appreciative applause from the gathered thousands, who clearly adored the youngest member of the royal family and his spontaneous, genuine reactions to everything happening around him throughout this historic coronation day. Princess Charlotte performed one more perfect and graceful curtsy to the crowd below, her royal training and natural elegance combining to create a gesture that impressed everyone who witnessed her polite and respectful farewell to the people who had waited so patiently to see the royal family. The 8-year-old princess had handled every aspect of this long and demanding day with remarkable poise and dignity, proving that she was already well prepared for her future role as a senior member of the British royal family, and showing the excellent guidance she had received from her parents. Prince George stood tall and proud beside his father William, already displaying glimpses of the confident and capable future king he would someday become when his time came to serve the British people and the Commonwealth nations. His serious attention to royal protocol and his mature behavior throughout the entire day had shown everyone watching that the monarchy would be in excellent hands when the crown eventually passed to the next generation. The young prince waved formally to the crowd one final time, his gesture combining childhood innocence with royal dignity in a way that touched hearts around the world. Kate and William exchanged one more private and meaningful smile as they stood together with their children, both parents knowing in their hearts that they had successfully navigated one of the most important and challenging days in their entire royal lives. Their relief and pride were evident in their relaxed expressions and genuine happiness as they realized that everything had gone perfectly and that their family had represented the monarchy beautifully during this historic occasion. Their partnership as husband and wife, and their success as parents, had been displayed for the entire world to see and admire. The entire Wales family walked slowly back toward the tall palace doors together, their arms around each other in a natural embrace that showed their genuine love and support for one another after sharing this incredible experience. They moved as one united family unit, each member having played their part perfectly in creating a day that would be remembered and celebrated for generations to come. Their obvious affection for each other and their shared joy in the day's success created a perfect ending to a perfect royal celebration. As the famous palace doors closed gently behind them, the Wales family had successfully demonstrated to the world that the British monarchy could beautifully blend ancient traditions with modern family values, ensuring a bright and promising future for the institution that had served Britain for over 1,000 years. Their natural grace, genuine warmth, and obvious love for each other had won the hearts of people everywhere and proved that the crown would be safe in their hands for many decades to come. The day had created memories that would last a lifetime for every member of the royal family. From the smallest details of the morning preparations to the grand spectacle of the coronation ceremony and the joyful celebration on the palace balcony, King Charles had been crowned with dignity and reverence, and his son's family had shown themselves to be worthy inheritors of the royal legacy, ready to serve their people with the same dedication and love that had defined the best traditions of the British monarchy throughout its long and glorious history.